Layla and Omar climbed.
Higher and higher, the stairs groaned under their feet. Dust filled the air, thick and choking.
Finally, they reached the top, the roof.
Omar kicked open a heavy metal door. Sunlight flooded in, blinding them.
She'd almost forgotten what the sun looked like. The sky was vast, blue, endless.
But below, the city sprawled, a wasteland of broken buildings and rubble-strewn streets. A shiver ran down Layla's spine. This was the open city, their new home.
"We'll be all right," he said, though his voice wavered.
Layla wasn't so sure. They descended into the heart of the open city. People moved through the streets, their faces etched with hardship. But there was a certain freedom in their eyes, a wildness that Layla had not seen in the faces of the enforcers.
A group of children played amongst the rubble, their laughter echoing through the shattered buildings. An old woman tended a small garden, coaxing life from the dry earth. A young man hammered metal, sparks flying from his makeshift forge.
Life, Layla realized, had found a way. But it was a hard life, a constant struggle. She saw hunger in the eyes of the children, fear in the lines on the old woman's face, exhaustion in the slump of the young man's shoulders. The open city was a refuge, yes, but it was far from a paradise. That night, huddled around a flickering fire, Layla and Omar listened to the stories of the other residents. They spoke of the collapse, of the long journey to the open city, of the challenges they faced daily.
Layla's heart ached for them, but she also felt a surge of something else. Hope. These people had survived. They had built a life for themselves against all odds, and if they could do it, so could she and Omar. "We can't just sit here," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her chest. "We have to do something to make things better."
Omar looked at her, his eyes filled with pride. "You're right," he said. "We have the skills. We have the strength. We can make a difference."
The next morning, Layla and Omar set out into the ruined city. They needed resources, food, water, tools, anything that could be used to rebuild. The other residents, initially wary, soon warmed to their enthusiasm.
They formed teams, scouring the deserted buildings, their laughter echoing through the empty streets.
Layla, agile and quick-witted, proved adept at navigating the crumbling structures. Omar, strong and resourceful, used his engineering skills to clear debris and salvage usable materials. Each day they returned to the open city, their arms laden with treasures, a crate of canned goods, a working water purifier, a box of nails and screws. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. But their efforts were not without challenges. The ruined city was a dangerous place, filled with hidden dangers and unstable structures.
More than once, I found myself scrambling to escape a collapsing ceiling or dodging falling debris.
And then there were the whispers, the rumors of other survivors, some not as welcoming as the residents of the open city.
They spoke of raiders, of scavengers who preyed on the weak, their hearts hardened by desperation.
Fear, Layla realized, was another enemy they had to fight, an enemy that lurked in the shadows, threatening to divide them, to turn them against each other. Layla and Omar refused to let fear win.
We organized patrols, teaching the other residents basic self-defense.
We worked tirelessly, reinforcing the defenses of the open city, building walls and barricades from the rubble.
Slowly, the open city began to change. The streets were cleared, the buildings shored up. A communal garden began to flourish, providing fresh food. The sound of laughter, once rare, became commonplace. Layla and Omar, once outsiders, were now an integral part of the community. Their skills and determination had earned them the respect and admiration of the other residents. There were setbacks, of course. Days when their searches for resources yielded little. Nights when the fear of raiders kept them awake, listening for every creak and groan of the city. Times when arguments flared and tempers ran hot.
I learned that building a new life wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about building trust, about overcoming differences, about learning to rely on each other. It was about hope, even in the face of despair.
One day, they discovered a cache of medical supplies, untouched and forgotten in the ruins of a hospital. It was a major victory, one that brought much-needed relief to the open city. But that night, a fire broke out, fueled by a careless spark. They managed to contain it, but not before it claimed several of their makeshift shelters. Through it all, they persevered. The fire, though a tragedy, seemed to ignite a new sense of purpose in the residents of the open city. They worked even harder, rebuilding what was lost, strengthening their defenses and reaching out to other survivors, inviting them to join their community.
The open city, once a refuge, was becoming something more. It was becoming a symbol of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. A place where, against all odds, life was not just surviving, but thriving.
Layla, looking out over the city one evening, felt a surge of pride. They had come so far, overcome so much, but she knew their work was far from over. The open city was a work in progress, a testament to the never-ending struggle for survival. The threat of raiders remained. Resources were still scarce, and the scars of the past ran deep.
But I knew, deep in my heart, that we would not be defined by our past, but by what we chose to build from its ashes. We had found a home, a purpose, a family, and as long as we stood together, as long as we held on to hope, the open city would continue to rise, a beacon of light in a world shrouded in darkness.
The journey was far from over, but they would face it together, one step at a time, one brick at a time, one day at a time.